So this week for Bible study, we've been off for a little bit. So this week, Gloria and Rudy both hosted us at their house. And we had, I would call it now, our annual pool party. How many of you remember learning how to swim? Yeah? How many of you have ever taught a child how to swim? It's fun, right? I remember teaching my niece Natalie how to swim. It was a moment filled with trust and fear and eventually joy. But first we had to get through the trust and fear part. I remember grabbing her, looking her right in the eyes, very seriously telling her, Natalie, I am here. Do not worry. I will not let anything happen to you. I imagine that today is what God is trying to tell us. These memories, along with today's reading, can offer us a deep insight into our relationship with God, as well as what our jobs with God are. Our first reading is from the prophet Amos, who was a humble man, a shepherd, a dresser of sycamores, a worker, and yet of all these people, God chose him. Truth be told, Amos had his fair share of doubters, his fair share of haters. Regardless of what society said or who he upset, Amos was sent by the Lord to deliver a message. One of the main takeaways from the prophet Amos is that we don't have to become something special or have some great education or have some special talent. Amos and all the disciples were, for the most part, uneducated workers. When you are moving and shaking and living your life with God, we have nothing to worry about. A really sad fact is that many people today are beat down by others, by what others say and what others do. This really hits home for me because many times we have all had times in our life where we felt unworthy, not good enough. Amos had to trust God, much like a child learning how to swim. Amos relied not on his own, not on himself, but he didn't rely on his own abilities. He relied on God. Oftentimes we would want to rely on ourselves, but we need to learn how to rely on God. When I was thinking about Amos and him preaching, I thought of my niece learning how to swim and how I needed her to understand that I've got you. Trust me. Have faith in me. I can't help but to think that that's what God is trying to get all of us to do. Just trust. Have faith. I oftentimes feel like God's not a human, but if God was human, God would probably laugh at us sometimes. In the letter to the Ephesians, the author reminds us that we are just like Jesus. We are all God's adopted children. God chose us. God has a plan for us. Our entire lives don't just happen because our entire lives happen because God has a plan for us. We have all been chosen even before we were born. We can walk with our heads held high, knowing that we have been chosen by God and that God is always going to be there for us. In today's gospel, Jesus sends the disciples with nothing, absolutely nothing more than their tunics and a walking stick. Last week, Father Brett had us all think about what it would be like to walk in Peter's footsteps. Well, today I thought about what it would be like if I were to do something like that with only sandals and a walking stick. No money, nothing else. It'd probably be a little hard. I wonder what they must have felt like in that moment. Confused, scared, worried. As daunting as this task seemed, they went forward with courage. We should always try to remember that we aren't always going to be comfortable. Oftentimes when we're weathering a storm, we're not even going to know we're weathering a storm. One of the jobs that God has entrusted us with is to love God and love one another. How easy is it for us to overlook people that are in our lives? I'm guilty of this myself. Just yesterday at work, I had a lady come in and, she was in a bad mood. I start every day in a good mood, kind of annoyingly in a good mood, right? And she came in, she was really upset and she wouldn't say anything. And I thought, oh, she's just in a mood. She's not going to ruin my day. That's literally what I said. And I pushed her to the side. Little did I know that this lady, the day before, had 2 people in her home country die. Her friends passed away. But there I was, blinded to the fact that I'm chippy, I'm having a great day. But there's somebody in front of me, right in front of my eyes, who is suffering. As adopted children of God, we are called to love God and to love one another, and to do so even when it seems hard or seems like we don't understand. Much like when we're trying to teach our children how to swim, our role is to guide, support, and instill confidence in one another. God is like that parent that calls us to support us and assures us that God is there, and to step out in faith even when we feel unprepared. Have you ever felt God nudging you to do something that you're not sure about, something that is outside of your comfort zone? A new job, new ministry, maybe reaching out to someone in need, or even making amends with someone you've been estranged from. This week, as we're nourished by God, I pray that we all remember that we are called and chosen by God and equipped by God. Let us place our trust in God this week.